Thanks for spending time with us today. Everyone's really excited about LTE coming out in the networks. Can you talk to us a little bit about the security implications of LTE being launched?
Sure. So the nice thing about LTE is it's facilitating IP activity down to the access point from a wireless perspective. The challenge is in 3G, we basically had secure encrypted protocols all the way from the device to the base station, all the way back to the core network. From an LTE perspective, we're looking at encryption from the device to the eNode B or to the base station, but from the core network or the backhaul network back, it's open. So there are many carriers that are coming out by implementing IPsec, which is a secure protocol or tunneling capability, but because of the implementations or proliferation of things like femto cells, pico cells, even Wi-Fi access points, the good thing is it's opening up more activity, more opportunity to access the network. The challenge is by flattening it out, you've also opened up some security risk to it. So from our perspective, we look at it and our solution basically looks at it from a perspective of sensor devices. So there are point solutions that are addressed out there, whether it's a SIM solution, whether it's IPsec, whether it's basically security gateways or the 3GPP SEG. We look at those as all sensor data that can feed up to us, and we orchestrate that solution. So we help security analysts make sense. So we can basically normalize the data, we can do event correlation, we can do prioritization, and then bring it up and look at it. And then from that point, typically the analyst is looking at it from a perspective, I have to manually go out and validate some of these things. It includes, do I ensure that this issue is a valid issue or is it a false positive? I also need to go into threat intelligence or knowledge management databases and look at it and say, okay, what is this? And is there any historical evidence of this issue before? And then how is it remediated? So the nice thing is we can automate that and present to the analyst all right there. Typically a manual process that takes time. So the other side of it is once they figure out how to remediate it, that's a manual process as well. And typically they're filling out a trouble ticket request or a configuration request that goes back to the network operations side that says, look, I need to shut down this firewall port, or I need to look at this device, decommissioning, those type of things. So what we're able to do is basically automate that process as well. Typically they want man in the loop or man in the middle so that there's a network operator that says, yeah, okay, I understand that. I see what the configuration changes and I understand how it's going to affect my network. So he presses the button and does the activation change, or he goes into the system and actually does a configuration change in itself. We can automate that. So, you know, the nice thing is with the proliferation of LTE and all the opportunity it brings, not only from a humanitarian perspective, from a commercial perspective, from a quality of life perspective, the goal is to let us go over that and ensure that it's still a stable, secure, reliable technology.
Great. So what about the Internet of Things? Another one that everyone's excited about, and I assume this complicates matters more, and I want to know if someone's going to hack my refrigerator in the future.
So, you know, so the interesting thing is I don't know if it complicates things more. I think there's certainly more things out there, but, you know, there's discussions now on Internet of Things of putting a SIM chip out into each one of these things, but the fundamental issue is Internet of Things, every one of these things has an IP address. And so if it has an IP address as it's connected to the network, there's a potential security risk. And once again, what we're looking at is looking at the use scenarios, looking at the threat scenarios, and looking at it from a process perspective. Say, okay, excuse me, how do we identify that? How do we remediate that? And if it's a regular, reliable process, then we can automate that process. And the nice thing is, from a CSG Invotas perspective, we have the ability to bidirectionally communicate with the network. So not only do we do business process security process automation, but we also have the ability to go down and do configuration changes into the network, as well as decommissioning devices, right? And that goes the same on the mobile side. Enterprises typically will deploy MDM solutions, which is similar to a desktop antivirus solution. So we have the ability to also leverage MDM data, so I can basically decommission a mobile phone if we see that it's a threat.